The streets are buzzing. New York Knicks escape jail in Brooklyn late down the stretch. One of the ugliest wins on the season, if not the ugliest. But the Knicks get out with the win over Little Bro, Brooklyn, 93-92, man. The Knicks tried to give this one away, right? 17 turnovers, less than 28% from downtown. But Karl Anthony Towns, right, despite missing some free throws late, he had a great performance defensively on both sides. Welcome in, fam, to the post-game as tempers were flaring in this one. Mitchell Robinson was hit on an alley-oop. OG got active in the second half to help the New York Knicks get ahead. 14-point lead in the fourth quarter, man, and the Knicks went 6 minutes without a bucket. Could not believe what I was watching, man. Pete in the chat says great game to watch, but depending on which side you sit, I mean, look, the New York Knicks right now, man, they ain't focused on Brooklyn, but they need to start playing a lot better. Slow start once again. Obviously, no Josh Hart in this one, but we have a great update. Deuce McBride taking contact and practicing, getting ready to come back. And we really need Deuce McBride to get us out of this funk. But you love things, heating up during the game. OG Anunoby getting into it. He was chippy with Nick Claxton, right? We rewind all the way back, guys. Welcome in. Chris Gotti, buzzer beater, Pete, New York City, Dermot. Great to see everyone come through. Hope all is well. We've got a lot to talk about. We'll look at the East. We'll talk about Deuce McBride's impending return, the starting five, and all of that. But look, first and foremost, I mean, I think the New York Knicks, obviously this game was important in terms of the second tiebreaker of the division. Now, the New York Knicks, if they split the season series with Boston, right, and we finish with the same records, the Knicks will still win the division because this was the second clincher tonight against the division foe, Brooklyn. But bottom line is the New York Knicks, man, heading in to the playoffs, right, there's a lot of questions about, cohesiveness. These slow starts, I think, are definitely a concern. Hart not in the lineup tonight, so we'll talk about that. But, Diawara's play is sliding a bit. Alvarado, not much of a factor for me, but I liked OG's game. I really liked Cat's performance. Cat had a couple of great defensive sequences where he forced a miss, but 6.5 minutes without a bucket, man, against Brooklyn. The Knicks' bodies were in the building, but their minds were elsewhere tonight, and we escaped with a win. Now 9-2, we're at 46-25. If the Knicks can go 9-2, they can still get to the 55 double nickel. What do you guys think about that? Right? Obviously, the way we're playing, it's not likely that we're going to go 9-2, but obviously, man, they took Brooklyn lightly. And look, Brooklyn, we all know, man, rewind. As I was going to say earlier, the Knicks stomped a mud hole in Brooklyn, right, with 50-point win earlier in the season. And Brooklyn came out, to their credit. They were a lot more chippy. They didn't want to lose their, billionth game in a row to the New York Knicks. And they stepped up their defense. And for stretches, the Knicks just didn't have much of an answer in terms of, there was a lot of ISO ball in the first half. The Knicks, to their credit, did step it up in the second half. But I mean, I want to zoom out, bigger picture stuff, guys, because these are the games where what really irks me about these games, and we get the win, and Friday night Knicks, right? We're going to try to bring up the vibes tonight, but I just want to say this first and foremost: if you're a real championship team, these are the games where you shouldn't need Brunson and Cat and, half of your starters to really win you the game. I mean, heading into the game, I'll be looking at it ideally like your bench should be competing so hard to prove a point that, we're going to help you get the win tonight. But our bench is really struggling, and that's where Deuce is going to come into it. But yeah, if you look at like former champions in the past, recently, Boston, OKC and all of that, their bench guys would have looked at a game like this tonight and say, hey, starters, we got you. You guys rest tonight. We're going to show why we deserve more minutes. But for the Knicks to need OG, Brunson, and Cat to bail them out of a game against one of the worst teams, the worst team in the league, trying to give away the win, then, it's hard what to make of it, man. Obviously, and I'm not going to overreact too much because we know the Knicks are a moments and vibes team. They turn on the switch, they turn it off. But like I said, man, I want to talk more about the bench tonight because this is a game where you need your bench to say, hey, guys, you guys should only play 23 minutes. We're going to win the game for us because if you are a real championship level team, your depth should be so great. You should be you should be feasting on these teams, right? And so that's what really irks me, fam. But bottom line is we got the win. We did obviously deal with an injury. We're going to bring you up to speed. Landry Shamet did not return. Doesn't seem major, but I think he did, suffer something with a contusion, something with his knee. But we'll take a look at that. But Karl Anthony Towns' recent play has been positive. You could see how much he was really missing or hurting after missing those free throws. But man, again, credit to Brooklyn's defense. They made life difficult. They muddied it up. They junked it up tonight, man. The Knicks 17 turnovers, 28% from downtown, right? Lackadaisical in the words of Clyde as well. But physicality, man, they were trying to hurt Mitchie, and Mitchie stood up strong. I really like Mitch's game. So yeah, overall, I thought OG, Cat, and Mitch, guys have been really stepping up recently. Brunson, not convinced with his play at the moment, and obviously I think he's probably just going through it right now. Macau, I think as well, not getting enough out of Macau. But the size issue with Brunson is a concern when they are putting length on him. He needs to give up the ball, I think, a lot quicker, right? New York City Grey says Knicks are not a championship team, just best in the East. I'm waiting for Giannis. Appreciate the comments. Johnny Chiba salute says way too many turnovers, not enough assists. This game was truly for Kolek. Right, Kolek didn't get much of an opportunity. Diawara's minutes have been up and down recently. Salute to Paula in the building. Great to see you. Pete also agrees with the Kolek situation. Should have played tonight over Clarkson. What do you guys think? Clarkson did hit a couple of big buckets, but yeah, offensively, we're in a funk. 6.5 minutes without a bucket. That might have been the worst stretch of the season. I don't think we've gone 6 minutes without a bucket. But again, credit to the Nets defense. They had a lot of length out there. I really liked the game of Josh Minot. I liked him way back in Minnesota. He went to Boston, showed some signs. I think kind of feel like Boston let him go prematurely. But yeah, he's going to be a team in this league. Buzzer beater, first in the building. We need to stop playing with our food. That could be statement of the season. What a comment. Again, I don't think they're approaching these games with respect. Obviously, Brooklyn, we just beat them by 50. But that just goes back to my point, guys. This is a game. If you really are a championship team, you shouldn't need half of your starters to even play to bail you out. Yes, they should play, but they shouldn't need to bail you out, right? We go back to like Boston's last championship, OKC's, Denver, even Milwaukee. This is a game where their bench are like, hey, we got you. And, we're going to, we're competing for minutes and we're going to show everyone why we deserve more minutes. But I think that's the Knicks' underlying issue right now, man. When it comes to the playoffs, I'm really not going to be worried about OG, Brunson, Cat, Mitch, Josh Hart to a degree. We're worried about Mikal Bridges, but what I'm majorly worried about right now is, okay, we really need to get Deuce back, and looks like that's about to happen, which is great news. But who out of this picture right now, who's really proven it? Who's really saying, who's grabbing these minutes? And who's saying, I'm not going to let my minutes slip. I'm going to grab more minutes right now. None of these dudes right now. That is a concern for me. We're really playing up against the D-League team, tonight, right? Clarkson gave us a bit of offense, like I said, but um, the Knicks have been on a roll recently. Obviously, a soft schedule, so you guys can see in this picture, courtesy of Goldsberry. Salute to him. Third in net rating, sixth in offense, third in defense, and our defense is going to benefit from this game tonight too, holding Brooklyn to 92 points. So our defense is just our defensive metrics are going to continue to shoot up, right? No Huck Porty tonight. Huck Porty is leading the league in 200 field goals defended, 38.2 right now. Obviously a limited role. You take these stats with a grain of salt, fam. But Huck Porty, fam, leading the league in 200, minimum of 200 field goals defended. But we rewind all the way, we fast forward, all the way towards the end, man. And yeah, Brunson's clutchness bailed us out. But it was an ugly performance, man. 007, my guy, salute. Giannis is not happening unless he goes to free agency and outright signs with us. Leon isn't gutting this team for anyone. Um, yeah, we got heaps of time to talk about the Giannis thing. I'm not. That's the furthest thing from my mind right now, man. Um, I believe we still have what it takes to win a championship, right? Yes, a lot of things got to go right, and yes, we're not the favorites. I'm not saying we are, but I'm focused on trying to get it done this season, and you just never know, man. Cade Cunningham, that injury, I know he's going to be back before the playoffs, most likely. Prayers up to him with the collapsed lung, man. A freak injury, and you just don't want to see that happen to any player, let alone a superstar, right? We want to beat Detroit fair and square, right? And I'm ready for that matchup, fam. But let's bring you that footage of Deucey McBuckets getting Lucy, right? Practicing pre-game, courtesy of Steph Bondy, right? Taking contact now. And Deuce McBride, man, he's ready. I think he's getting real close. He might be promoted on the injury report to from out maybe to doubtful, maybe even questionable, right? We got Washington next up, right? Washington on Sunday. So great news overall, man. Hopefully this is going to bring the vibes up, because I mentioned these names off the bench, and we need more two-way play, right? Clarkson too erratic, scoring okay right now. Alvarado the opposite, right? Solid on defense, but too erratic on offense right now. Landry Shamet, I love his effort, effective defensively. When he's on and he's hitting shots, it's great. But he's really looking like a veteran minimum player, which is fair to say because he is, right? So, okay, now you guys are talking about Kolek, right? Yeah, I like Kolek's game. Let's see him get minutes against Washington, man. Right? If I'm Mike Brown, man, I'm not closing the book on anyone getting playoff minutes right now, because it should be like competition right now, right? No one's convincing me. Johnny Chiba says, agree, CT. Brunson holding onto the ball too much, doesn't get rid fast enough, especially when doubled. That's minutes per game wasted with himself. Pause. Yeah, definitely had an issue with Brunson's game tonight. They swarmed him with length. Credit to them, it was a good game plan. But yeah, other Knicks weren't hitting the shots, Salute to Old in the building, says struggling to beat the Nets is horrible. Facts. Especially when they're trying to do this to Mitchie, right? And muddy it up, right? Mitch got the double tech. You know, these guys showing their emotions. Obviously, the frustrations came out, but look, this ain't a new thing. Like, we have a habit of playing down to the competition. It just is what it is, and that's why I'm really giving the heat to the bench tonight, because I know a lot of guys say, to win a championship, it's your starting five, right? I believe it's more than that, because certain nights, if you really are a championship team, your six man should be elite. You know, a six man on a championship team should be good enough to start for half the league. Okay, so you really need your bench. Yeah, your seventh man, Michi. Okay, he's playing great. Eighth man, really need Hart. Obviously missed his energy. Does tonight's game really highlight how much we underrate Josh Hart? Whether he's starting or whether he's not, whether he's coming off the bench, right? At least he gives you energy when guys ain't having it. I really don't want to waste too much oxygen on Mikal Bridges too, because we know when his shot's not falling, what else is he doing? He's not playing physical, and he's not going to give you that. So that's why Josh Hart really is invaluable in these physical type, gritty games, where with, you can't always have your way, and you need to play a lot faster, you know? Pete says Deuce on the loose. Yeah, we really need Deuce. I've been talking about it for a long time. We've kind of got out of jail with a couple of these games, but yeah, it's you know one thing to say, like Deuce is really our sixth man, maybe a starter worthy guy, and to get through 2 to 3 months without that kind of player is tough. So the Knicks got through that. Here we are, man. 11 games remain. If we go 9-2, we'll get to double nickel. I predicted 56 wins. I didn't think we'd get close to that right now, but we'll look at the schedule later tonight. We can go 9-2 because there are some very easy games, but we do play OKC. We'll play Boston. That Charlotte game coming up, fam, is going to be pretty tough too. So yeah, what to make of this rotation, man? I don't think anyone's really earning their minutes off the bench, man. I could go either way. Give Kolek some burn. Um, I still like Mo in the rotation. I do think maybe his minutes shrink a little bit because he's playing hesitant. Um, he did frustrate me tonight. Did Diawara. Sometimes he had a smaller guy on him, and you just want him to be a bit more aggressive, and draw a foul. He passed it back out or dribbled it back out a couple of times. That's where I want to see Mo. Obviously, he's going to grow as a player. He's still really young, still a rookie. But yeah, I want to see these guys, show me more. Um, Pete says Huck is tough at the rim. D Grant salute says, yeah, but Deuce has been injury prone the past 2 years. That is a fact. That might come down to how much, he gets paid, in the next contract. But for right now, look, I guess on the positive front, like apart from the missed free throws, like Karl Anthony Towns is having a great, and I mean great, second half of the season. In the nick of time, because we talk about Macau and Deuce, but truth is, guys, we all know, man, we can't win a championship unless Karl Anthony Towns plays like an All NBA level All Star. To be the running mate for Jalen right now, and credit to Cat. He's playing great ball. A lot better defensively than he has been in the past, and obviously this man, this is probably the guy I'm least worried about, and that might sound crazy to some people, but the way Jalen's playing, there are some concerns. But when the playoffs come, man, I know OG is going to be probably our most valuable player, um, in terms of a two-way guy. You know, Obviously we go as far as Brunson takes us. That goes without saying. But just in terms of the two-way guy, our most dependable player is OG Anunoby, and I love him attacking the rim as of late. He's gotten super aggressive, man. Especially getting into it with Nick Claxton, man, clapping back to the clacks. Um, Pete says guy grabbed Mitch's jersey, almost pulled him down. Could have gone down hard. Yeah, hearts were in mouths, fam, in that one, but thankfully we got out unscathed, and that's why I just revert back to my point, man. Gonna beat a dead horse tonight, but our bench should be the guys stepping up and winning us these games, man. With 11 games to go in a make or break playoff run, right? We don't want to be overplaying Cat and Brunson and these guys in these games because these tanking teams like Brooklyn, man, they're already thinking about their off season, but they're trying to hurt people, or they're trying to, they know they're not adequate skill set wise, so they're trying to muddy it up. Uh, so yeah, I'll be cutting dudes minutes ASAP, and I'll be trying to get the bench going because I think that's really key, right? Standings and all that, I get it, man. Second, third, all that is important. We're going to talk about that, but truth is, as long as we get home court, top 3 seed, I would start to limit some of these guys' minutes against these kind of teams. The Oklahoma game, play everyone like as usual. I get it. Boston game, I'll play everyone as normal. Houston as well. But we've got Pelicans coming up, Charlotte, Washington. Like I would not be messing around with major minutes and guys possibly getting hurt. We're too close to the finish line right here. 007 says right there with you, CT. No time to panic. They're still gutsy and dangerous. Yeah, we're a team that flips the switch, and I think we play down to the competition because this sport specifically, I think, is like 90% energy and intensity. You know, you could be as talented as anyone, but if you don't bring the intensity or energy, you can lose to anyone on any night. And we've seen it before. Teams can really get physical and try to bring you down, pull you down as well, man. They're trying to drag us down, but we prevailed, man. We escaped jail tonight, man. Salute to everyone in the building, right? Blessings to everyone. But the Knicks, yeah, 46 wins now on the season, 46 and 25, right? 21 games over 500. Proud of a lot of guys tonight, but yeah, still concerned that it got to that point, 6.5 minutes without a bucket. Paula says Knicks don't have easy games coming up. Chris Gotti salute says Knicks struggled on offense more too, only 93. Yeah, obviously, Deuce coming back, that's going to help out a lot. Clarkson's been helping. But yeah, I want to see Alvarado and Mo D be a bit more aggressive, or if not, get Kolek out there. He's like the oil for the engine. Is a guy like Tyler Kolek, man. He'll get that engine humming, I think, off the bench, that change of pace kind of guy that can get downhill too. And you know, he's a big game player, Kolek. Christmas Day against Cavaliers, NBA Cup final in Las Vegas, other big games at MSG where Kolek helped us close, not just perform well, he closed the games out as well. So, I see you guys, man. Tyler Hive. Um, what's Mike Brown going to do? We're going to talk about it. Old says, agree. Diawara looking indecisive and erratic. Yeah, you expect that from a rookie. I guess he exceeded a lot of people's expectations, earlier in the season. Now's the time where I would really have preferred Diawara or expected Diawara personally to start looking even more confident. For some reason, I don't know why his confidence has kind of gone down. Maybe it's just the stakes getting higher, um, and all of that. But yeah, nice pass here from Diawara, and he's still giving us good things. Like he's still showing how talented he can be in this league. Um, but yeah, a lot of questions regarding how many minutes should a guy like Diawara get, especially when these stakes get higher. Let's see how he does against, all of the games coming up. I mean, Washington, hopefully he plays a lot of minutes. Pelicans coming up, Charlotte, but then OKC, Houston. Mike Brown's got decisions to make, in terms of tightening up this rotation. Um, Another great pass from Diawara, although it was a jump pass. The Knicks 17 turnovers tonight, man. almost gave the game away. Would have thought Sohan would have got this. Could have been a good game for Jeremy Sohan to match their level of physicality, you know, and scrap it out. Um, Kevin McCullough Jr., guys, had his best game in the G League the other night, man. 5 threes, 28 points, 11 rebounds. Like, he was lighting it up, was Kev. He's on the two-way, though, so Kev ain't going to see any playoff opportunities, right? But Clarkson, still in that rotation right now and helping us out on the offensive side. What happens when Ducey gets back? We'll talk about that right now, right? The Knicks have not announced defensive player of the game just yet, but we will bring up the full game highlights right now and an update on Mike Brown reaching a milestone. Damn. 500 career wins, right? One of the most forgettable of his career was tonight, but they all count, fam. 500 career wins. So salute to Mike. Salute to the coach for that milestone. But here we roll. The highlights. The Knicks came from behind after another slow start. Right, lack of energy coming out of the gates. Right. How can we cure that, guys? We've seen Hart in these lineups. We've seen Hart not in these lineups. So we can't blame Josh Hart. Is Brunson the guy? We got out to a faster start the other night when Brunson sat. It's a legitimate question. Not saying you bench Brunson, but is he one of the reasons we're sometimes getting out to a slower start? Because it's all to do with pace, I think, in my opinion. It's not just about assists and ball movement and getting other guys going. Sometimes when you come out lethargic, it is because we're playing very slow and a slow grind pace. I think obviously later in the games, especially crunch time, you slow things down, half court grind. But to start games, I think we need to come out a lot quicker, you know? Now, in terms of the starting five guys, this is what I think is going to happen. I think he's pretty much going to stick to Josh Hart starting. Maybe on certain playoff matchups, he might start Mitch or substitute Mitch in sooner, you know, if the other team is going double big. You know, Miami can go Bam and Khalil Ware. Philly can go, obviously, like we've seen, they can go big as well. Cleveland can go double big. So the Knicks still might save that, but I think, let's say game one, my prediction, Madison Square Garden, first round matchup. I think the Knicks still, Mike Brown still plays Josh Hart to start. But here's the but, right? Mike Brown is a lot more willing to make, you know, a quicker substitution, especially if he's got a guy like Deuce McBride back healthy. Now, we can't really judge too much the final, you know, these last 3 months because he hasn't had Deuce, you know. Who the heck knows? You know, during that slump, he might have even been willing to start Deuce during then. So he might have revealed that, but we never know because Deuce has been out. But look, yeah, it gives us more options, you know. Mitch could be the first sub quickly with Deuce, Alvarado. Shamet obviously is a quick sub that usually comes in around this, you know, the 7, maybe 8, 7, 6 minute mark of the first. Now he still likes to play Jalen Brunson the entire first quarter. I don't know how you guys feel about that. OG Anunoby, in my opinion, should play most of the first quarter too. Would like to see Cat stay in the game a bit longer as well, but I get the foul, you know, concerns as well when it comes to that. So yeah, a lot of decisions to be made. But look, I'm just really excited to see Deuce McBride back. We take it from there. We have 11 games remaining, and Deuce is very close. So I'm gonna guesstimate that Deuce plays at least 4, minimum 4 games, 5. Obviously, we've got to wait to see the injury report to see whether he gets that promotion. New York City says, I want Diawara to be a role player, 3D, but mostly the D. Everyone should know their role. Yeah, I agree with you. Um, I don't want Diawara hijacking the offense and that, but I just feel like sometimes he's a little too passive. Like he's got a nice dribble and he can get around the dribble handoff, comes downhill off the curl, and then he just isn't looking at the basket. And the defense kind of, recognizes that. You hear Clyde talk about it a lot. You got to look at the rim. Got to look at the rim as well. Keep your head up. That's why I like my man's Tyler Kolek in that situation, getting downhill, because he's devastating. He could dish, he could splash it or spray it, sorry, and he can also drop a floater or a layup as well. Clarkson is dangerous in that situation as well. Clarkson's passing has improved, right? For the most part, as a vet minimum guy, I can't really complain about Clarkson. He's given us some valuable minutes. But what I can say is, defensively, those concerns still remain. And so you can't overplay a guy like Clarkson. Chris, yeah, agree. Got to start games quick, slow it down if the game calls for it. Yep, true, exactly. I feel like against like OKC, Detroit's defense, yeah, you got to try to pick up the speed, definitely. Um, Johnny Chiba says Brunson is a slug with the ball, right? That's just his game, and it works for him. It's effective. It works for us most of the time as well. But look, defenses are getting better. They're recognizing, okay, let Brunson hold the ball for a few seconds. We're going to quickly bring the help, and we bring length. And that's where Brunson he gets into jail, man, with these turnovers because he's so short. He can't see over the length, and too many turnovers tonight, right? Now, when the floor's spaced out like this, and Brunson has got a wide open, space to work with, then yeah, he's devastating. Like here, Danny Wolf was in, on Rikers in that one. He was left out on an island, and that's ideal because the spacing and the help is so far away. Brunson's got time with the floor spread out. Um, New York City says Knicks' best players play when the pressure is on. Yeah, we do have a lot of clutch guys, and this guy included, man. Um, During that funk, I said Deuce for me would have got a start, would have got a look in. Landry started a couple games. But yeah, we're going to see how he looks. Don't want to put too much pressure on Deuce. He might only end up being a 15-minute a night guy in the playoffs, right? But ideally, I think he should be deserving 20, 25 at minimum. But look, we do have a lot of weapons as well, and some matchups might need size. Shamit is a bit bigger, can fight with a little bit more length than Deuce. Mo Diawara, obviously. And it's fair to say, Jeremy Sohan just hasn't really worked out. He's not really going to factor into the playoffs as we see right now. I mean, I was high on the pickup, but that was based on, you know, giving it a look and then seeing what it looks like. And we did get it a look, and Jeremy Sohan just doesn't fit right now with the squad, especially with Mo D able to knock down some shots more consistently. But as we continue to roll, shout you guys out, hit that like button. Today's game ball goes to the man, Big Bodega, Carl Anthony Towns, right? Is he our most informed player? It's a toss-up between him and Mitch, but OG close behind, and Brunson still in a funk. But look, Brunson only needs one game. He can turn it on at any point. Mikal Bridges is the one I'm most worried about. But I know Mikal's a guy that does step it up, especially with the physicality. That's really what I'm most wanting to see more of out of Mikal. I know shots, he goes into streaks and the shots don't drop. Sometimes they do, and he ducks contact. But that's my main issue. When the playoffs come, he's got no excuse to duck contact because the game, the series, the season is on the line when it comes to the playoffs, fam. And look, thank God we've got a guy like Ducey coming back, because if Mikal Bridges isn't coming correct, man, as a coach, man, I wouldn't need any excuse to go straight to Deuce McBride if Hart or Macau Bridges are struggling, right? Because at the very least, I know that Deuce McBride's going to give you solid two-way play, right? He can make the defense pay if he's left open, and he can also get into the paint, but he can also fight over picks better than Macau can. And him and Landry and Alvarado could be a solid with Mo D and Mitch. Could be an amazing defensive lineup, fam. Alvarado, Deuce, Shamet, Mo D, and Mitchie, man, could be locked down. So we do have these options. Pete says Hart should start against small lineups, come off the bench against these bigger lineups. Yeah, I got no problem, mixing and matching and adjusting to the opponent. I think that's good coaching. You know, I know some other coaches prefer to trust their starting five and just stick to that all the time. But yeah, you got to utilize your weapons. We have a deep squad still, guys that do good things in different areas. We still maybe lacking a couple of extra two-way players, but um, yeah, you can afford to mix and match depending on the opponent. I mean, the East is very different, man. You got teams like Miami and Orlando that aren't going to kill you with offense, but what they are going to do is just grind you down from a physical standpoint. And then you got teams like Cleveland with James Harden and Donovan. And you got teams like Philly. They're just looking to get up and down and pour it on against you too. So yeah, the East is very different, man. And who the heck knows what happens if Charlotte can get in there and create some noise? The Charlotte Hornets, could create an upset. Yeah, in my opinion on Hart, he should be used according to how the game is going, how he's looking, and keep his minutes on a tight leash. Johnny Chiba says this team is missing a true point guard who facilitates ball movement. I think that, yeah, this team is certain guys benefit more with that kind of point guard. Ultimately, I don't know about the ceiling. Brunson's still going to be a guy that wins you playoff games, but I just think, yeah, for the first part of the game, you got to get other guys going better. Brunson's still struggling in that area. Kolek can get guys going early. Cat, Macau, they rely on getting early touches. So does Mitch. And you could see Mike Brown recognize it. I think today I saw on the MSG feed that Mike Brown was yelling to Brunson, move the ball. I could read his lips. I think Brunson had a terrible turnover or one of those shot clock violations. And I saw Mike Brown move the ball. And he was giving it to Brunson. So look, tough love, superstar player, star player on the team or not, as a coach, you need to hold him most accountable. Otherwise, the other guys are just going to check out. Right. If you ain't holding your star accountable as the coach, I think other guys are just going to get ticked off. Great feed from Clarkson in this one to keeping his head up. Yeah, back to Johnny Chiba's point, because I think Brunson way Brunson can be a lot better is just get it over the halfway line quicker, man. I know he's sometimes getting picked up, 3/4 court, full court. Even if it takes someone coming up and setting a monster screen to free him up, we just got to get downhill quicker. And then obviously, the probing and all of that, the hop steps and the pivoting and all of that, the dribbling is shifting the defense. I get it. Yeah, I would like Brunson to utilize the initial skip pass, because I know guys like Coach Nick, B-Ball Breakdown, and those talked about that a lot, especially with us on this show. The upward skip pass is key to just getting the ball up the court quicker, and then Brunson can then run the lanes, get it back, and do all of that. But the thing for me is, right, the reason Deuce fits so much like a glove next to Brunson is because he's another dynamite scorer that can take over the rock and shoot catch and shoot, pull up off the dribble, but he defends super well at that point as well, next to Brunson. Kolek with Brunson, and it's too lopsided. It's too porous defensively. And then Alvarado with Brunson, and it's just too small still as well. Alvarado is a bit better offensively, but small too, and not confident in his shot right now. What is it? 12 straight misses, I think, from Alvarado from downtown, and so that's why Deuce McBride is that guy that can play next to Brunson that I don't think Kolek and Alvarado can do too much. We've seen some good minutes of Alvarado next to Brunson, but it's not a look that I think is going to be great long term, especially against size in the playoffs. But I think Deuce just gives you a bit more size and toughness, but obviously a lot more offense as well. Um, and look, last point on Mikal Bridges, but when we recruited and traded for Mikal Bridges and we picked him up, that was the dream. Like, that's the biggest failure with Mikal, in my opinion, is a guy who should be a two guard next to Brunson, a guy who should be good enough handling and creating in a major way, facilitating, and we're just not getting that. Sunken cost, whatever. 5 first-round picks. Hopefully he can come correct in the playoffs to a better degree, but when we picked up Mikal Bridges, I thought, okay, great fit next to Brunson, because he's that defender next to Brunson, but he can also let Brunson work off the ball, and Mikal should be able to create like he did in Brooklyn and Phoenix, but we're not getting that juice. We're not getting that juice. Josh Hart, in my opinion, is not a shooting guard, and Josh Hart is really an undersized wing, a 3. Undersized 4 as well, just the style, the way that Josh Hart plays with his rebounding. But yeah, in a perfect world, when we picked up Mikal Bridges, I thought, yeah, great fit, because he should be able to create better. But yeah, his dribbles just been not adequate. In tight spots, creating is an issue for Mikal as well. Standing him in the corner, I mean, guys like $3 million guys, and vet minimums and Kyle Korvers and that should be standing in the corner. You don't pay a dude $35 million just to stand in the corner. Now, OG does other things. He can slash, use his physicality at the rim, defends great, and can pop the 3 as well. So no problem with OG's contract, his production. But I think with Mikal Bridges, when he has good games, obviously, that's what you pay the $35 million, but we're not getting enough creation ability, I think, out of that spot. And for a guy that just stands around in the corner or cuts, I think, like I said, you could pay dudes $3 million for that role. And those guys like Corey Kispert, Kyle Korvers of the world, some of them earned good contracts as well, but they're not $35 million, type guys. Buzzer Beater says Sohan, GTA 5 are cheap pickups for a reason. Hard to disagree in terms of, like, yeah, they're role players, they're impact players, and if they were to impact the game every single night, they would be more than role players, So yeah, that's their role in the league. I think both of them. Well, Sohan's a lot younger, but yeah, he hasn't found his way yet. But yeah, you're right about Alvarado. You know, what was he had for Dalen Terry and a second round pick? Definition of a cheap pickup. Look, the way Campaign is playing right now, and the way Campaign played last year, he was effective in that role as a change of pace guy that could get downhill. Now, Alvarado brings a lot more on the defensive side, so I'm not going to gloss over GTA having an impact, because the Knicks have really stepped it up defensively since acquiring GTA as well. he's not the main reason, but he's helped. Now the Knicks are third on defense, and after holding Brooklyn to 92 points tonight, our defense is definitely going to continue to stay at 3 or even improve on 2. But yeah, Alvarado's definitely helped in that area. It's just finding out, okay, the lineups of how to play him, who to play him with. In a perfect world, Landry Shamet is 6'6", but he's undersized a little bit as well. But his shot can be erratic. So he's the definition of a kind of a vet minimum guy as well. And we hope that next year, Diawara, Kolek, Dardier, McCullough, or whoever we draft in this year's draft could offer a lot more in terms of two-way play with the size. I think that's what we're missing. Agree with old 2-8 here. I think Sohan would have been perfect for tonight. But yeah, I think Mike Brown's made his decision not to play Sohan with just 11 games remaining. I think he's situational. We'll talk about the standings right now. The league. Not going to stew on this game too much. We've got Washington. Let's continue this streak. Hopefully, guys can get in a rhythm. Hopefully, Deuce can get back real quick. Johnny Chibas says, CT, you're the coach. What changes will you make going into the playoffs? What's new? Rotation with Deuce? Question mark. Great question, man. Appreciate you coming through with this one because, yeah, that's a question that a lot of people are asking themselves right now, and I'll give you my answer according to how I'm feeling. As I said earlier, I think Hart will stay in the starting 5. I think Mike Brown just trusts Josh Hart enough. And I think there's enough of a sample to see in these games where we're struggling. Brunson looks lost with, being trapped. So I do think Hart will stay in the starting 5. And I don't really have a major problem with that, but I would like a quick hook. And I would like Deuce to come in real quick or Shamet if we're starting too slow. But I'm monitoring it closely, fam. But basically, my rotation, man, it would be Deuce in the starting 5, just to clarify. But I do think Hart's going to continue to start. So my starting 5 is Cat, OG, Macau, Hart, and Brunson. But I would replace Hart with Deuce, and then my bench is obviously Alvarado, Deuce / Hart. If you wanted to flip those two, Shamet, Diawara, and Mitch. I would cut Clarkson. I would give the nod to Diawara because I just think I just value, and again, a guy who should have a quick hook because he's a rookie and it's the playoffs. But I would prefer Diawara over Clarkson right now because I do think that the size and the defense and the rebounding is important. And hey, if we're behind or you need to make an offensive run, Clarkson's there to come off the bench. So you can always, make that decision later in the game. But I think to start, I think we need that extra size, especially for replacing and giving OG and Macau and Josh Hart that rest. That's key as well. I would even like to, Johnny Cheeb, I would like to look at some small ball lineups. Let's say Cat's in foul trouble or, we're playing too slow. Teams are really bogging and locking us down. Okay, how do we increase our pace? Let's go small ball. Let's space these dudes out. Let's get OG at the 5, spaced out on the corner. When Cat's on the bench. And obviously, you want Mitch to play as much as possible too because of the rebounding. But like I said, if the game calls for it, and we need to increase our pace, and shots just aren't falling, I would start to look at some small ball lineups. With Diawara at the 5, OG at the 5. If Sohan's getting some minutes, we haven't seen him at the 5 enough. So yeah, and just to talk about the Bridges thing, why I would continue to start Bridges as much as it's such a conundrum. and maddening as it is, I don't think it solves the problem. The problem is we need Macau to play well. If you're benching him, it's more detrimental, in my opinion, because I just don't think we can win a championship if you're not getting enough production out of Macau Bridges, right? He could be the X factor heading into the playoffs, right? If you bench him, you're basically like, okay, you're putting so much more reliance on Shamit and Hart and Deuce and Clarkson. So Macau Bridges, he got where he is. He's a $35 million player for a reason. When he's playing well, he looks like it, and he deserves that money. But for the most of the time, he's not performing well enough. But I think benching him is just not gonna help. You know, the very least, he offers good passing lane ability to get steals and strips in the playoffs. Hopefully, he turns up the physicality, but also at the very least, he can catch and shoot and keep the defense spaced out as well. So I'd be open to a double big starting five if you want to bench Hart, and I'd also be open to benching Hart in favor of Deuce, fam. So that's my thoughts. Great question from Johnny Chiba. Diawara over Clarkson in the rotation, in my opinion. And I'm going 10. You might keep some minutes. The 9th and 10th guy, you might keep their minutes low, but I'm still keeping a 9 or 10 man. If I'm going 9, then if I'm going 9, fam, then it's a battle between Alvarado or Mo Diawara, right? Deuce, Shamit, and Mitch. Like, they're gonna play. No questions about it. There's zero questions about Deuce, Shamit, and Mitch playing every single playoff game if they're healthy. If Mike Brown or you want to cut it to 9, it becomes a debate, in my opinion, about Alvarado. Because again, Deuce can give you a lot of that. And if it's a tight game, you need offense, defense, you need the size. Deuce can give you a little bit more, and obviously a lot more aggressive offensively. So on certain nights, I don't think we'd miss Alvarado. And then obviously if Diawara is really stinking it up, turning it over and looking passive, then I think Diawara is the guy that's probably needing his minutes cut. That's if you really need to shrink it down to 9. So yeah, that's where I'm going with that. Yeah, it all depends on how Deucey looks. Again, if Deuce comes back and just looks like the Deuce McBride we know, 15 points a night with 6 rebounds, 5 assists, 2 steals, and it's just back to Deuce, then that's great. We don't really need Alvarado, in my opinion. They probably do want to play Josh Hart a lot in the playoffs for his rebounding prowess and his extra size over Alvarado. And look, this could be a good role for Alvarado. What about this? This could be Alvarado where he's not quite in the rotation, but he's that 2 minutes, to end the quarter. Okay, you just want to, get MSG on, get the crowd going, and you play Alvarado 5 minutes. You give him 2.5 minutes to end the second, and maybe 2.5 minutes to end the third, to give Brunson a little bit of a breather. And you just tell Alvarado, man, you got 5 to 6 minutes. Just be a pit bull. Just do that. Do what you do. Creep up behind dudes, get a strip, get a deflection. You know, get in people's skin. Get into a Cade Cunningham skin. Frustrate someone and then get the heck out. That could be a good playoff role for Alvarado. I don't know if Alvarado deserves 10 to 15. Like carved out role in the playoffs, but he could be that just like change of pace. Just the game just needs it. The game needs like someone to just come in and and all hell breaks loose. kind of thing. So that's where I'm at. Yeah, 9.5. Maybe Alvarado's that point 0.5. And on a certain night, Diawara, could be that point 0.5 as well, fam. Um, um, Next up, yeah, New York City Grays agree. Bridges has to be made to work. Yeah, it has to. And I think he will turn it up in the playoffs. All of this thing, I think, is mainly to do with the Iron Man streak and just, not wanting to deal with the physicality. But I can only go off the past sample. And when the game, with the high stakes, Bridges did turn up. He does have pride. I think he will turn it up when it comes to the playoffs. Um, but like you say here, he may be a dude that needs a quick hook. Not sure how he would handle that mentally. Um, yeah, so here's an idea I have. Maybe like, okay, if you do shrink his role with the starting unit, whether he starts or he doesn't, let's say his minutes shrink, he's an earlier substitution. If I'm coaching, I would make sure, okay, I would get Bridges out there with some of the bench lineups and really get him on the ball. Like, do, you know, let him some actions and set a couple of hard screens, let him get to his little pull up. That could get him going, you know. So, like, at least as a coach, I'm trying to, help you out. It's like, okay, I get Macau. You can't get too much of the ball with Cat, with Brunson and OG. Like, there's just a lot of mouths to feed, and Josh Hart handles the ball a lot as well. So I kind of understand how Macau Bridges gets lost in the offense, especially with the ball sticking to JB. But I don't think enough has been made to try to get Bridges going, and so that's what I would try to do: run some units with him on the bench. Um, Maybe Alvarado Bridges Deuce, or Alvarado Bridges Shamit, Mo D, and Mitch. And I really let Bridges be the focal point with Deuce. Maybe that could get him going, man. I think there's a lot of issues right now with the starting five, and I think Brunson and Macau don't fit together as well, as much as Hart sometimes as well. Uh, Next up, Johnny Chiba with the comment says, what if Deuce or Josh Hart in the starting five brings the ball up quick? Brunson becomes the 2 at the shooting guard. I think that is a good thing. I would like to see more of that, but I do think that's going to be a little tricky because Brunson loves to be on the ball first. It's how we get our actions going. I think off the ball, it also helps their defense a little bit in terms of, like, let's say it's Osar Thompson, he could sort of hug Brunson, he can clamp him a little bit. Whereas if Brunson's got the ball, he can't, like, foul him. But I do think if JB's off the ball, what they do is they do try to blanket him. And so sometimes the shot clock's going down, fam, and Hart just can't get off the ball because he can't find, Brunson can't get the separation. So I do think that's a little bit risky. In that scenario, I'd be more confident if it was Deuce, because that way I know, okay, if Brunson can't break free, the shot clock's going down, Deuce will put his head down and he'll create something. He'll make a play, he'll get fouled, or he'll pull up with the higher release. Not so much Hart. I'm not confident with Hart with the ball in his hands late shot clock. Maybe the answer to our solution, fam, is OG. This guy on screen, man. He just needs more reps on the ball, perhaps. Get downhill, get OG getting going with his physicality and his size. Right? That's what I think we need, fam. I think OG Anunoby is a guy that, he's made for the playoffs. He gets the crowd going as well, fam. And I think he's a guy that should deserve more of an offensive role, in my opinion, over Mikal, right? Because look, what's the point of difference? He could swashbuckle his way to the rack and put his shoulder down and get contact as well, fam. especially in the playoffs, right? We want to get teams in foul trouble, right? One thing that worked to the Knicks' benefit tonight, which helped us when we were stuck in mud, we were getting to the foul line. We were getting to Cat with Minot on him. We were getting Minot in foul trouble, and we were getting Danny Wolf in foul trouble as well. So the Knicks have gotten better at getting teams in foul trouble. It frustrates me sometimes when we don't recognize that we do have the team in foul trouble, and sometimes we settle. Brunson was settling for a couple of J's when those guys were in foul trouble. Um, I would have just kept going at not Danny Wolf with OG and Cat and just continue to use their physicality. That's how superior teams do beat up on these inferior teams. That's what I think we need to do. Shez V in the house, salute to you. Salute to the best chat in the biz. Knicks buzz. We're buzzing on Friday night Knicks, right? Mainly because of the 5-game win streak, soft schedule, but not after this specific win, right? We got out of jail tonight, man. Buzzer says last season Deuce and Brunson were the highest scoring backcourt tandem in the league. Yeah, speaking facts, man. And yeah, man, I just love Deuce's game so much. I just can't wait to have him back, man. It's like that long lost brother or cousin, right, that you finally reconnect with as well. And it's like, the chemistry's still there. You pick up where you left off, man. And whether it be a high school or former college friend that you reconnect with, getting Deuce back, seeing him pull up with the rainbow three and hear the crowd, that's just going to be amazing to get Deuce back. And look, that fortifies our bench so much more because I'm realistic. I don't think Deuce is going to start, but we have a hell of a bench. If the first 3 guys off the bench you're bringing out is Deuce, Shaman, and Mitchell Robinson, I'm happy with that. Like that, I think that's good enough in terms of winning a championship. In terms of two-way guys, length, rebounding, size, physicality, toughness, Deuce, Shamet, and Mitchell Robinson come the first 3 guys off the bench, then you're in a good spot. And then you see how it goes with Alvarado and Mo. Alvarado and Mo. You see where it goes with that. But for the most part, Deuce is going to play major minutes. Shamet and Mitchell Robinson. They'll be playing major minutes. Maybe the 9th guy and the 10th guy is you decide where depends how the game is going. But yeah, if I'm making a guess right now, I do think Mike Brown sticks with Alvarado as a playoff guy, but maybe he gives him like 5, 6, 7 minutes. He keeps it real short. Because I do believe if you're going to play Brunson the entire first quarter, then someone has to start the second quarter and bring the ball up. We know that's not Deuce's strength. He can get trapped. He can get stuck in tricky situations, and you also want Deuce McBride also as the 2-guard threat. So that's where, if I'm guessing right now, guys, it's hard for me to see Alvarado getting completely benched because you need a point guard to back up, to start the second quarter. Now it might only need to be for a couple of minutes. And then you see, depending if it's a tight game, if it's an elimination game, Brunson's going to come straight back in. But maybe Kolek. If Alvarado gets first dibs and he struggles, Kolek, like Mike Brown's a crazy mad scientist. He might just go, all right, I've given you a shot. Let me see what Kolek can do. And as we look at the schedule now and the standings, fam, what I would do, man, next game, I would sit out Brunson, man. I don't want to risk no injuries. It's Washington, right? It's Washington, man. So sit Brunson, man. Let Kolek run him up. Let Alvarado, who had 10 dimes in the other game against Indy, right? Do you guys agree? Let me know. Do you guys think would you disagree? Would you want to continue to get guys in rhythm? But for me, there's too much to lose, nothing to gain over that Washington game, fam. Right? There's still Pelicans after that. There's Charlotte. We're not we're not at a critical point where we're going to drop seeding. We have enough of a gap as we're going to look at right now. But yeah, Washington, Pelicans, Charlotte before OKC. So I do think that the Knicks should continue streaking. New York City says Brunson 1, Cat 2. When should OG take over? When should Bridges take over? I think OG, I think Cat at the top to space it out. That would unclog the paint a little bit. And hopefully that can open the lane up for OG a little bit as well. So for me, best Bridges opportunity to get loose would be when Brunson's off the floor. We know Hart and Bridges have good connection. They have a good little 1-2 connection. So look out if Bridges does get hot. Look out for Hart to be somewhere nearby, because obviously those two are brothers. You know, Hart was most excited when Bridges came, and I think those two have the best connection, Bridges and Hart. They had that little great 1-2 earlier in the season, where the synergy, the connection, and then in terms of OG, I think best OG to take over is obviously if Brunson's off the floor. I think most first and foremost as well. But I think late in games, late in quarters, oh, see that is what can take the get the defense sort of off guard, because later in the quarters, usually the fouls have racked up. When I talked earlier about the defense is getting into foul trouble, it might be Brunson helping or Cat to help the defense get in foul trouble, and then OG towards the end of the quarters can get physical and start to really, bully his way to the cup. Because he is great, like OG, right? He's quite one dimensional, but he's good at it. Getting downhill, shoulder down, might be a little push off that he gets away with, but he could get to his spot as well, especially if they're in foul trouble. And he made a couple great moves on Cade Cunningham too. Like, let's say Cade Cunningham, he's on 3 fouls. He's on 3 fouls in the second quarter. That's a big possibility. Cade does pick up those fouls. You have a chance to get Cade in his 4th foul. You got to get the ball to OG Anunoby, right? And try to get physical. Try to drive on Cade. Jaylen Brown as well. I think for the most part, Brunson ain't going to get, guys like Cade and Jaylen Brown in foul trouble. It's got to be guys like Cat and OG. That they've got to get those dudes in foul trouble. Ideally, we get Osar Thompson in foul trouble as well. That'll change the series in that one. Neymar says play Josh Hart. Johnny Chiba says I like watching OG get physical. Shez V says we can move up to the 2nd seed. Yeah, that's true. We can win the division. So tonight we kind of clinch the 2nd tiebreaker. If the Knicks and Boston finish on the same record, fam, the season series would be split. Even if we lose the final game to Boston, right? For those that don't know, the Knicks are leading the season series to 2-1. If Boston win the final matchup, it's 2-2. But the 2nd tiebreaker for the division title is division record. And the Knicks beating Brooklyn tonight means we will win the division. So tonight's win was important. And obviously Washington coming up, Pelican, Charlotte, they're not in our division. So, obviously it ain't the major prize, but we want a division banner, fam. That's what I'm looking out for, right? let's take a look at defensive player of the game, and we'll look at the standings right now. We have a couple updates. We got JB, OG highlights, and yes, we do have defensive player of the game. So let's dial that up right now. Salute to everyone in the building. Defensive player of the game again goes to JC. Shout out to JC in the place to be. Right. Yeah, he was physical, disruptive, but I think offensively is where he's really, helped this team out, man. In Deuce's absence. So yeah, credit to Clarkson. As a vet, he could have continued to pout. He stayed ready. An opportunity came up again, and he took it. And dare I say, he's going to be handy, man, just to have in the playoffs, right? He wouldn't be in my 10-man playoff rotation, but he's a guy you could bring in, break glass in case of emergency, to win you a game late. Floor spaced out, final possession. Let's say, let's say the Knicks are down 1. Got the final possession. Other team needs a stop. Brunson, Clarkson. I mean, they're great at getting to the foul line. That could be a moment for JC. So he wins Defensive Player of the Game. OG highlight: 16 points, 3 rebounds, 2 steals. Olds agrees with me. Sit Brunson next game. Yeah, appreciate you, fam. I think it would be common sense. Start to lighten the load before the playoffs. Hopefully he can get his legs more fresh. NYC agrees but takes it further. I would sit 4 of the 5 starters. We already know most will not be focused to play that game against the Washington Generals as they tank. Let the kids play. Yeah, facts. Also, let Macau and Cat get in a groove and let them continue to, or Macau and Alvarado, run amok. They might surprise us, and that could be a sneaky game to bring Deucey McBride back if he's ready, assuming. And maybe Deucey McBride can get 15 to 20 minutes against a team that's not interested in winning. Let the bench rock out. Neymar says Brunson needs to play better. Yeah, again, he's a guy who's a big moment, big game kind of guy, and I just don't think it stimulates, him. But it is a reflection of this team. I think they do lack killers, and that's just his personality. But let's just say, Kobe Bryant, for example, not comparing their games, but just in terms of killer mindset. Like, let's say Kobe Bryant was in his prime tonight and coming up against Washington, right? He would be thinking let me have it. Let me get at these dudes and let me put up 60, 80, 100, He wouldn't be thinking yeah, I want to rest up for the playoffs and I'm, maybe take it a little easy tonight. We're going to get the win anyway. Nah. Allen Iverson, LeBron in his prime, whoever, man, Kobe, those guys would have had that killer mindset. Man, I'm gonna embarrass these dudes, and that's the difference, man. That's the difference between Josh Hart, Mikal Bridges, Brunson, and those legends, right? They just don't have that killer mindset every game. Now they have it some games, of course. Like Brunson is a killer when it comes to games that mean something. But when it comes to games that don't mean nothing, they don't have that same level of, that killer mentality of just wanting to embarrass the other team, man. Hopefully we can get someone like that. They just go 100 miles an hour, Maybe we pick up a young, feisty rookie. Kolek Hive agrees. Johnny Chiba beating that drum. Fuck Tyler Kolek, man. have faith because I do think anything can happen. Um, we've seen Clarkson get back into that rotation. I think there's a chance Kolek could be, he could be the man for a situation. Injuries, um, anything can happen. Um, yeah, Shez V says Clarkson didn't whine about the benching. Props for that. Yeah, look, to their credit, man, as a locker room, I think these guys are locked in. That they love playing with each other. Um, don't think there's any locker room issues. I just think it's more to do with just chemistry on the court and just their mild personalities. They're not. There's a reason this team gets punked sometimes in terms of like Draymond and the players trying to be overly physical with us. So we just don't have that enforcer on this squad. Uh, But at the end of the day, OKC doesn't really have an enforcer, in my opinion. They've got a couple dirty players like Lou Dort, physical guys like Kason Wallace, Caruso, and that. But they don't really have any enforcers as well. But yeah, a lot of teams do need that. You look at Milwaukee when Giannis won the chip, they had crazy eyes, Bobby Portis. Um, you know, uh, other teams got those kind of guys as well. Uh, Johnny Chiba says, CT, when Brunson sat out, Knicks played team ball, dropped 38 dimes, including 10 from Alvarado. It's a different team. The key is having Brunson in the flow of the moment, equal time on the ball between trusted teammates. Also, the thing is, Johnny Chiba, like, you hope the coaching staff and the film and all of that, Rick Brunson, his father on the sidelines, you hope that they're calling it out, and helping him out as well, get the ball going and flowing quicker. Yeah, slow grind down the stretch. I think that's what we're going to see. But hopefully, dudes can hit shots, space the floor out, and then I think Brunson can get off the ball a bit easier. Right, so we hit the business end now of the season, man. 11 to play. Right, almost at the finish line. Knicks now, 1.5 back of Boston, who it looks like picked up a win today as well. We'll take a look at that. But we have a serious cushion now, man. 2.5 games over the Cavs, which is really 3.5 because of the tiebreaker the Knicks own over the Cavaliers. So the Knicks are essentially 3.5 ahead of the Cavaliers, right? With a couple of easy games coming up still. It's tough to see the Knicks losing that third spot. See, I would sit Brunson next one, sit out Hart for another game so he can heal up with that back issue. Yeah, tomorrow night I might even seriously consider sitting OG. I would sit Brunson. I don't mind, but I would sit probably Brunson. I would sit OG, and I would sit Hart out again. I would play Mikal Bridges because obviously he wants that streak to continue. Bring in Alvarado to the starting five. Bring in Shamet. Play Cat a little bit. Stretch the floor out. Play Cat light minutes. Get a lead. Yeah, and play some of the bench. That's what I would do, man. Tomorrow. Now, on the Cade Cunningham situation, man, Boston are all out. They might be able to get that first spot, sorry. As we take a look, Boston got the narrow victory over the Grizz, man. The Pistons got the win as well. So the Knicks didn't really gain any ground, but we didn't slip. Raptors lost to the Nuggets, and the Atlanta Hawks, man, the NBA's hottest team, finally dropped a game, man. The Hawks were on I think 12-game winning streak, right? So the Hawks are all the way up to 7 now. So it's shaping up, man. The matchups might be Knicks Magic, or it might be Knicks Hawks. Who would you prefer? I know I'll prefer the Hawks. But yeah, Magic I think are going to be really tough. That's going to be a tough first round matchup with the Magic. if Franz is healthy, Jalen Suggs, and the physicality, man. I guess the benefit would be MSG South, Florida. That arena is going to be major with Knicks fans as well. Great possibility could be the Raptors slide down one more spot. Maybe the Magic move up to 6. And maybe the Raptors move down to 7. Sorry, maybe the Magic move up to 5, and the Raptors move down to 6. That would be great, in my opinion. My first preference would be the Raptors. Second preference probably be Philly or the Hawks. Philly are just behind the Heat. Heat 8, Philly are 9. The Hornets are stuck in 10. I think that's as far as they go, fam. Hornets have got some tough games, man. It takes a lot out of them, I think, making that major run. So I think it's going to be Philly, Hornets, play-in game number 1. It's probably going to be Heat, Hawks, play-in game number 2 for the double chance. So, man, it's going to be interesting, right? Old 28B says, agree, sharing is scoring. You look, our squad definitely benefits when the ball moves a lot better. We just have so many weapons, right? And on that note, man, we close up on a positive note because Karl-Anthony Towns' play, right? He really has turned it around, to his credit, right? So we can go as far as the NBA Finals and win the chip with Karl-Anthony Towns playing this way, right? He can get teams in foul trouble. He's starting to hit threes now. More disciplined defensively too. And we're about to get Deuce McBride back. So that is that, ladies and gentlemen. Salute to everyone in the building. We'll see you post-game, man, Sunday. Washington Generals. Hopefully we can sit a couple guys out, man, and see what the bench has got. But things are looking up because 9-2 would get us to 55 wins, man. That would be good enough to get us second, in my opinion. Right now, it's tough to see that happening. Maybe we probably go 7-4, 8-3. I would take it. But a couple tough games coming up. We don't know. Maybe OKC sit out a couple dudes against the Knicks. Maybe Boston for those gamesmanships. Sit a couple dudes as well, man. Love, peace, and hair grease, says Buzzer Beater. Salute to you and everyone in the building, man. Blessings and happiness out here. Our Knicks got out of jail tonight, man. Right. Don't take any win for granted, but this one, right, was just a win in the win column, man. That's all it was, man. A win in the win column. We get at it on Sunday, man. Peace.